Hi, I'm Matt Herty, and welcome to Beyond the Numbers. Beyond the Numbers is a concept which is to play lead guitar by recognizing the patterns of all the scales. If you want to learn theory, that's great, but that's going to take you a while. And if you want to learn great lead guitar and do it fast, then you want to learn patterns. This way, you can just let your fingers go up and down the fretboard, guided by the pattern. This way you can listen to the music and feel it. Now, this video is going to teach you how to play the pentatonic scale. And I don't mean bits and pieces. I mean all of it, up and down, backwards, forwards, and inside out. The pentatonic scale is basically the scaffolding of lead guitar. And it's also the basis of rhythm and blues. And when you're playing, you want to be feeling the music, because that's where the magic is. If you're having to remember what lead you played or remember the parts that you put together, you're going to be creating a distraction, and this is going to break up the flow, and you don't want that. You want to just be listening to the music and just going where your soul takes you. And this is how the crowd really gets a connection to you. And this is also inspiring, which can create and trigger a spark on stage, which is very energetic. And that's what creates that magic in the air in a concert or on stage at a gig or whatever. So what you want to do is look at the pentatonic scale as a grid. Now, all of the scales, harmonic minor, major, the modes, whatever you're playing, they have an order. And that order is the same. Doesn't matter what scale it is. But the pentatonic is your grid. And when you take those scales and you put them in the same order and lay them on top of that grid, they coalesce into a bigger picture. And then you're able to recognize it much faster. And so if you know the patterns, you're not thinking about it. And this will create improvisational skills beyond what you imagined. So basically, you do this by having a starting point. When you're playing lead guitar, it can be really frustrating unless you have somewhere to start. Everything that is difficult is very frustrating if you don't have a starting point. So what I have created is, and maybe other people have too, but I call it the home plate. And what it does is gives you that starting point so that you know where that is at all times. And you learn the scale above it and below it. And you get to know that really well. And as you learn that, you add more and go further and branch out from there. And then once you have that grid in your mind's eye, you can apply the other scales to it and then just start playing without thinking. And this is going to create that magic that you're looking for. So I'm going to teach you this. So grab your guitar and let's get started. Okay, before we get started, I want to go over some navigational tools which will help you understand what I'm talking about throughout the video. Now, you'll notice that the fretboard only goes to the 18th fret. And I designed it that way because I thought that the whole neck would probably be too small, especially viewed from a cell phone. But everything that you need to know is between the 1st and 12th fret. And you really don't need to know anything else except that at the 12th fret, everything repeats. When you're looking at the pentatonic scale as a whole, it can be overwhelming. But just remember, each scale spans 4 frets, except one, and all of them overlap, and I'll explain this a bit later. Now, when you first start experimenting with lead guitar, there's a place that you grab your neck instinctively. And I think that's for most people, but for me, that would be the 5th fret and the 12th fret. And what I've noticed with most guitar players, and myself included, I grab the guitar and start playing in A pentatonic. And this is what I call home plate. It's basically the favored position for blues lead guitar. So it's quite fitting to make this your starting point. Now, this doesn't mean in the key of A only. It depends on what key you're playing in. If you're playing in the key of E, then home plate are the 4 frets starting at the 12th fret. Now, above the fretboard you see numbers. 1st, 2nd, home, which is 3rd, 4th, and 5th. And that's all there is. These numbers indicate the scales, which are in a fixed order, and what are called boxes. Now, if you look all the way to the left, you'll see this extra fret that's on the left side of the nut. I call this the 1st and 12th fret tag. The nut is actually playing the first note of a string, which is called an open string. So the tag is there to show you the structure of the scale of whichever one happens to be at the bottom of the neck. Okay, so up at the 12th fret you'll see another nut. If you've ever noticed, when you're reading manuscript for a score or for piano or something, every once in a while you'll see 2 bars with 2 dots on the outside. And what it's telling you is to repeat the phrase. So I just put that there to help remind everyone that at the 12th fret, everything repeats. So since everything repeats, your main focus is between these 2 points, which is from the 1st fret to the 11th fret. And what you see here is exactly the same thing as what is above the 12th fret. And notice that the notes here are exactly the same thing down at the tag. And everything right here is exactly the same up to the 6th fret. So what you're not seeing of the upper home plate is right here. And everything above the 18th fret is right here. So everything that you need to learn is right here. You'll just apply it to what you're playing on the upper fretboard. Okay, so I mentioned earlier that the order of the pentatonic scale never changes. Look at it as a circle. If you were to take the 1st fret and the 12th fret and bend them around like a belt that you would spin while your playing hand stays in one position, the only time anything would change is when you change key. And since the whole scale always stays in the same order, the only thing that you have to think about is to start from the key that you're playing in. So if you were to change to the key of B, then this is your home plate, and you would start from here no matter what scale you're playing. Pentatonic, modes, harmonic minor, major, or whatever. So as you can see here, everything moves up with the home plate as you change key. So now you're in the key of D. And now you're moving to the key of E. But for now, we're just going to concentrate on the key of A and E, which I'll explain a little bit later. And last but not least, the little red circle is your key root note. Now when you're playing lead, you don't necessarily need to start or end on your root note. But until you have a full understanding of the scale, you do want to start and end on your root note so that you can hear it resolve. Okay, getting back to home plate. The reason why this concept is so beneficial is because this is your reference point to every scale that you would be playing. The more scales that you add to your, quote, arsenal, unquote, the more complicated things will get. And you'll eliminate all this extra thinking by having this as a reference point. So if you know that everything branches off from your home plate, then it's easy to identify the other scales. For instance, the modes. This is A Aeolian, and all the scales of the modes line up and never change order, the same as the pentatonic. And they move along, right along with everything as you change key. And here's your harmonic minor. And here's your harmonic major. So that's a lot of information, and don't try to think about it right now. All you want to do is learn the pentatonic. This is your grid, and everything else is fixed to it. And once you get that grid in your head, everything will come to you much easier and faster. So let's get started. Okay, so first we're going to go over some finger positioning, and you might think that's a little bit trivial, and some of you might already have your finger positioning down and been playing a little bit of pentatonic, but for the beginners, we're going to go over this, and even though some of you might already know this, it might be a good idea to watch it anyways, because I've seen some people play guitar some pretty weird ways, so you might learn something. Anyway, it's not going to be that long. So this is the pentatonic scale, and it's made up of 5 separate scales, which are divided up into 5 boxes. And each box has 4 frets in them, except the 5th box, which has 5, which is easy to remember. And each finger should lay across 1 fret laterally. And here's your first box. Here's your second. And this is home. Home is your 3rd box. 3 is a charm, and I'll explain home in the next segment. This is your 4th box, and this is your 5th box, and as you can see, that's 5 frets. Okay, so moving on. So this is your 1st and 2nd finger position. 1 and 3 is position 1. 1 and 4 is position 2. So most of your finger positioning is going to be these 2 positions throughout the whole pentatonic scale. And as I move around to the other boxes, you can see that pretty much it's a combination of these 2 everywhere you go. And what you want to do is make sure you keep your fingers lined up with each fret, so you're not jumping around the neck, putting your fingers on notes that create some arbitrary pattern that's going to basically give you a bad habit. And starting out, you want to go slow, be systematic, and consistent. And this will build muscle memory so that when you start going fast, it'll be smooth, clear, and you'll sound really good. Now when you get to the B string, you always have to move up or down 1 fret. I call the B string the pesky B string because it always messes you up. So this is where we get to the 3rd finger position. Now, there are 3rd finger positions on the upper and lower strings if you keep your fingers in line with the boxes. So when you get to the pesky B string, you're going to be using your 2nd and 4th finger. And there's a good example of this here. So you're at home plate, and you're going to slide up into the 4th box. Now, from here, you're going to play up or down vertically. And you want your fingers to lie across each fret so that your 1st finger is lined up with the 1st fret and your 4th finger is lined up with the 4th fret. And when you go down to the E string, your 2nd finger is lined up with the 2nd fret in the box so that your 2nd and 4th finger are right there to play those notes. And when you're playing these boxes, you want your thumb to be behind the neck because you want your fingers to arch above the fretboard so that your fingers are directly above the notes. And this way you're playing them without hitting the other strings or making a mess out of your lead. So that's basically it, and you want to be practicing this as much as you can. I used to practice 2 hours a day and sometimes more. And really, you can't practice enough because life gets in the way. It's easy to get distracted. Even a serious relationship with someone will get in the way. So if you want to become a pro, it's going to take some serious dedication. So that's it, and now I'll show you what that looks like playing the guitar. Okay, so you're going to be starting at your home plate in the key of A. This is your 1st finger position. This is your 2nd. And this is your 3rd. And that's the 4th box. And down here at the 2nd box, you're going to be playing your 3rd, your 2nd, and your 3rd. And back up at the 4th, you'll be playing your 2nd position, your 1st position, and your 3rd position. And this varies all over the neck as you're playing the pentatonic. And so down here at the nut, you're going to run into open string territory. This is where you're going to switch your fingers a little bit, and you're mostly playing them with your first and second and third. And this looks like this. And so that's something that you're going to work on your own, because everybody's different and everybody's going to play those pretty much to what comes natural. And so that's something you just be practicing and working into your routine. So back up at the fourth box, when you go to the fifth, you're going to also run into some changes. So you're going to play from your first finger position to your third. And then when you get there, you're going to switch to your first position, because if you're playing your third position, getting your finger to that B like that is a little bit difficult and just a little bit awkward. So I always switch to my first finger, and that looks like this. And this way, when you're playing, you're switching your fingers around and you're kind of finding your own way. And this is kind of your style, and letting your fingers just cruise where your intuition is taking them. And so what you're doing is you're learning to play both, because you still want to be practicing the traditional way, keeping your fingers in the frets so that you're using discipline and keeping your fingers tight and in the boxes, but you're also learning to switch your fingers according to where you are on the neck. You're coming from the top of the neck down or from the bottom up, and it's different, especially when you're listening to music. You're kind of flying by the seat of your pants, so you're just going wherever it takes you. And you don't want to be thinking about it, so you want to train your fingers to know both of those positions so that you can just switch at will. And this way you're not thinking about it and you won't make a mistake. So when you're playing around, you're going to be switching, and this is kind of how that looks. You want to hit that A chord. This way you're hearing the resolve of those notes. And so, work at that, and then you'll get to the point where your abilities are getting much faster, and this is going to be helpful in your improvisational skills. Okay, so I'm sure most of you know by now, but this is a 7-string guitar fretboard. And don't worry, for all you 6-stringers, I'm going to put up a diagram for you as well, so everybody knows exactly where they're starting. And I'll get this home plate up and take the opacity down just a bit so that you can see those notes better. Okay, so you want to start with your home plate. You're going to play this up and down and practice it so that you've got it nice and smooth before you start playing the other boxes. And once you've done that, you want to move up to the fourth box and do the same thing. Play this up and down slowly and be consistent with it. Okay, as soon as you get that done, you want to move to the second box. And you can go up and play above the 12th fret and get used to playing from the lower second box to the upper second box. But make sure that you stay on the second box. Don't switch around. Keep it simple. And then once you've learned that, you're going to start moving from second box to home box, and then home box to fourth box. And then this way, you're learning to transition between what's above it and what's below it. And you're training your mind to branch off from your home plate. And then you play those until you can play all three of those without making any mistakes, or at least as few as possible. You want to play them smooth. So you're learning what's above and what's below. And what you want to do is get these down so well that you're not thinking about them. And by the time you get to the fifth box, you're not confusing yourself trying to remember what you just played. Okay, so you're going to be playing your boxes. Start with your home plate. Keep your fingers in line with the frets and play in uniform and start fairly slow. Then when you get that down, you're going to go to your second box. Then you're going to go to your fourth box. And then when you've got that down pretty good, you're going to put them together and start playing them one after the next, and just going from the second one and back to the center and then up to the fourth and so on. Play that A so that you can hear those notes resolve. So get that down and I'll show you the next sequence. So once you've got those three down, you're going to move to the fifth box. Now you're going to have to move your hand a little bit to reach the spread. But don't worry, this is the only time this happens. So play this one up and down and get used to it, and then move to first box. And play both of them and get used to switching from one to the other. And now you're going to go to the fourth box. And now you've already been practicing this one, so what you're doing is you're just getting used to transitioning from the fourth to the fifth, and then five to first, and then back to the fifth, and the fourth. And what you're doing is you're training your mind to learn what is in front and what is behind. So now you're learning what is above fourth and what is below second. Even though you're at the fifth box, you're learning to branch off from home plate. And this is training your mind so that if you ever lose your concentration, you know where to go. And then you just start playing up and down the neck. So go from home and move down. And now you're at first. And you can go back up, and then you can continue to go up. And once you're here, you can jump all the way up to the upper neck home plate. Everything's the same. The frets are a little bit closer, and that's why you want to be practicing both, because The fingering is tighter, so if you're not practicing that, you're going to make mistakes or just sound sloppy. So while you're practicing this, you want to be making your way from home plate to home plate. The payoff is big. When you learn to play these in sweeping moves, the crowd loves it, and they can tell, and they'll let you know. Okay, so I'm going to go over this again for the 6-string guitar players because you'd be surprised. The low B string can really mess you up sometimes. So here we go. You're at home, and you're going to move up to the 4th box. Now practice this a bit before you move. And then when you're ready, you're going to go to the 2nd box. And once you've got that down, you start playing from 2nd to home. And when you're transitioning between these boxes, you want to play from E to E and then move up. And you can move up on your G or your D string, but it's best to just go from E to E while you're learning. So after you've been practicing that for a while, you're going to move to the 5th box. And on your high E string, on your 10th and 12th fret, that's your 1st finger position. So that's your 1st and 3rd finger. And on the B string, that would be your 1st and your 4th finger. So you'll just move your hand down 1 fret so that you can make the notes on the G string. So now you're at your 1st box and play both of them. And now you're transitioning. And if you're going down from 1st to 5th and you're on your high E, you're going to play up to your low E, and then you're going to slide down to your 4th on the low E, and then you're going to play down to the high E, and then you're going to slide up to the 5th box, and you're going to play up to the low E, and slide up to the 1st box, and so on, and etc. And once you've got these down, you can start playing the whole neck and just go from home to home and above and below. Now when you're playing your leads, you want them to sound melodic and like they're going somewhere. You don't want them to sound sporadic and jumping around all over the place, so you want to play them in sequence. And yeah, you want to jump around every once in a while, but that's more for effect or like a riff. Now when you see these boxes in the middle like we have here, 4 and 5, remember that there's one up the neck as well, so don't forget to play those. And pretty soon you're playing up and down the neck, and you know where you are because you know the grid, and it's in your head, in your mind's eye. And you don't have to think about it, which leaves you free to just play from your soul and the emotion of the song. And always remember, your fingers are going to be playing somewhere near the home plate, whether you're down the neck or up the neck. So if you get distracted and forget where you are, you just go to your nearest home plate and keep playing. So one of the main rules is never stop or stall unless you mean to. Okay, so once you've gotten through with your first set of boxes, and actually you're never through because you got to keep practicing. It never ends. If you want to keep your fingers in shape, you got to practice always. So once you're feeling comfortable with that, you're going to move down to your 2nd box, and this is the open string territory. Sometimes I call that the brick wall because you can't go any further. So you're going to be probably making some adjustments with your fingering. You'll notice that I start with my 3rd position, but I often switch to my 1st finger position because it just depends on what I'm feeling once I get there. I don't really think about it. But anyway, so start on your 2nd box. So once you get that done and you're feeling good about that, you're going to move up to your 5th box. And you're also going to be using your fingers a little bit differently. Again, just however it feels comfortable. And you're going to go from your fifth to your first or your fourth. You want to keep playing from all directions. You want to keep your mind able to just go from anything, anywhere, anytime. And so you're going to start on your fifth. Play that A chord so you can hear it resolve. And so you want to just keep doing that until you can play from the bottom to the top, nice and smooth, and be doing it maybe a little bit faster. Just because you play it faster doesn't mean you don't play it slowly. You actually want to keep practicing playing it slowly because, you need to keep your fingers from, creating a habit. Keep your mind from putting yourself into a habit where once you're playing your solos, you don't end up, having to think about what you're doing, and that could cause you to pause or forget where you are. And that's why we have the rule of, if that happens, just go to your home plate. That's going to be down here or up here. So, and that's all in the key of A. So what you want to do is get that down really well and maybe go up into the upper neck, and remember it's the same thing, and keep working on that. And let's get back to the lesson. Now, the reason why I choose the key of A is because that puts your hand in between the 1st fret and the 12th fret. The middle of the neck is actually the 12th fret. So if you're playing in the key of E at the 12th fret, then yeah, your hand is in the middle of the neck, but that's not teaching you what is in between the 1st and the 12th fret, or the 12th and the 24th. Of course, the 6th string has 21 frets, but it's the same thing. So your concern is only what consists of 12 frets, because the upper neck is the same thing. So you want to learn the key of E. The key of A shows you what's above and below home plate. The key of E shows you what is between home plate. So what you're doing is learning the full range of the pentatonic scale, going to or coming from any point or position that you're playing on the fretboard. Okay, so here's your home plate for E pentatonic, and since I've already explained the mechanics of the key of A, I'm just going to go through it a little simpler. So, you're here at the home plate, and you're going to learn what's above it, which is the 4th box. And then you're going to go back to home plate. From here, you're going to move down to the 2nd box. And remember, you're learning the scale in front or behind, or above or below. And now you're going to move back to home. Then you're moving up to the 4th box. And as soon as you're comfortable with those 3 boxes, then you're moving up to the 5th box. Now you're moving up to the 1st box because that's the one in front of the 5th box. Now you're headed back to the 5th, but try to do it smoothly so that you're not stopping. And then try to do the same thing going to the 4th. And then you're headed back to the 5th. And then the 1st. And then from there, go ahead and go up to the 2nd. And practice them so that you can do all of them without stopping. And now you're back at home. So from here, go up to the 4th, and then try going up the fretboard. Now, even though you're up to the 16th fret, just look at the 5th fret, and then you'll be fine. And now you're at the 19th fret, and you should be able to see most of that. And now you're heading to the second box, but that's way up there. You might not even go that far. I can hardly even get my fingers on those frets. Okay, so that's it. So now I'm going to show you the sixth string, but I'm not going to explain anything because I think you pretty much have it. All right, now we're going to be playing some music. So what I want you to do is the same thing that you've been doing. Play your boxes and watch the patterns as you are placing your fingers on those notes. Only this time you're going to be thinking more like a drummer, which is rhythmically. And so you're not going to be playing so systematically now. You want to just kind of wander around the neck. You know, you're still going to be following the patterns on the display as the music is going. But you know, you don't have to be playing fast or doing anything fancy. You can go slow. If you get lost, you can just hold a note. That's what I do sometimes. You know, I'll hold a note and give myself a little time to think about my next move. And you know, if you can't get that in time, you know, you can go to your home plate, which is right here or down here. And by now you know a little bit about what's in between. And you don't have to be thinking about where you're going to play because the key is E and the music is in the key of E. So basically you're just using the patterns as a template. You don't have to think about it. Just let your intuition guide you while you're listening to that music. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to get you started and play to a little bit of the music and basically do the same thing that you're doing. I'll start slow and just show you what I do with the boxes, and I'll add a little bit as I go. I'll play some modes and a riff or two, or maybe some finger tapping. It just depends. I'll just know when I get there. But the whole idea is to give you the idea of what you can do once you get the grid in your head. So I think you'll have a little bit of fun with this. So here we go. So, practice up. You'll probably be playing like that before you realize it. Okay, so now it's your turn. Just put your fingers where the notes are and think rhythmically. In other words, your pick is your drumstick and your strings are the drum heads. So here you go. Okay, so that concludes the video, learning to play the pentatonic. And hopefully you've got something out of that that's pretty useful. I know it's a bit of information, but I designed that so that you can get everything that you need to know to become a great lead guitar player at one place. I know it's kind of difficult to search the internet looking for answers and trying to get questions answered, and it's a bit frustrating sometimes. So hopefully this is going to work for you. And you can always come back to the video and just stop it where you need to and practice a bit. Um, if you need to contact me, you can ask me any question and I'll answer it. You can reach me at beyondthenumbers33@gmail.com. And that's all lowercase, one word. And I'm going to be putting a podcast together to answer those questions. And so hopefully we can get a community growing, and I'll be on that on a consistent basis and be there to help you guys become, and you gals, become great guitar players. Um, so you'll notice at the end of the video, I have a little song there. It's called Merry Go Round. It's from my record, The Test of Time. And that features Clarence McDonald on keyboards and Mike Hansen on drums. And Clarence was a fantastic piano player, keyboardist. He played for James Taylor, Seals and Crofts, Bill Withers, the Pointer Sisters. He wrote and co-wrote with all of those artists, and he was a legendary pianist and a fantastic person. And so check him out and immerse yourself into some of his music. He was a great blues player as well. So Mike Hansen is a fantastic drummer. He was in the band Lynch Mob, and he plays with Hurricane now. And I think he played with the Pointer Sisters as well for a tour or so. But anyway, that's hopefully going to help you hear the music and put your fingers where they need to be so that you can, feel it and become confident and help teach you where things are. And I'm going to be putting a video out that's basically just a work video with some music. So I've written 2 songs for the video specifically, and it's going to be the same thing. Just going over the pentatonic scale in the key of A and E, one song in the key of A and the other in the key of E. And I think you'll find that that's going to be really helpful and hopefully fun. It's always nice to be able to play to some music and hear yourself get it so that it's working. And the only way to do that is by the experience of playing to the music. So that'll be coming out pretty soon. If you want to follow me, I'm on X, and that's Matthew Hurty. Last name is Hirte. And so that's Matthew Hurty at Twisted Oliver on X. And also there's Twisted Oliver at Twisted Oliver on X, and you can follow us there too. There's Twisted Oliver at Instagram, and we're on Getter and Truth Social, and we're distributed by DistroKid, and they've put us out on many social media outlets, music outlets, and we're on Amazon, Apple Music, iTunes, we're on Pandora, and you can listen to us on Spotify, YouTube, and that's all under Twisted Oliver. And it's difficult to keep it going without any financial help or any backing at all, because Hollywood has nothing to do with rock and roll. they hardly have anything to do with music. Um, they've abandoned rock and roll, and the only way it's going to survive is by the support from people who love it. And, that's what's going to help us get out and play, get the band back out and playing. So if you can, check out those sites. And, if you want to purchase one of the songs, you can do that at Apple Music or DistroKid. And, that's a great way to support the band. And you can get something really memorable for it. That'll last you your whole life. We're also putting up some memorabilia, some t-shirts and hats and things. That'll be out soon on the website, twistedoliver.com. So, so keep playing away, practice as much as you can, and, maybe you get it as far enough as to become a professional and make some money, or maybe even a rock star. So we'll see you in the next video.